You're probably wondering why I'm sitting here with all these funny little valves. I'm sure some of you diesel owners already know what these are. They're really quite a fascinating little piece of engineering, and they are critical to the shift quality of a diesel automatic transmission from the era of about 1978 to 1984, 85, right in that range. They first showed up on the 1978 W116 300SD like you see here, and they were mounted right on the top at the back end of the fuel injection pump. And a lot of people would say, well, what's that for? Well, I hope in this video to at least alert you to what it's for. I'm certainly not going to be able to tell you in a 3 or 4 minute video everything it does, how it does it, and why it does it, and what goes wrong with it. But I did want to at least tell you in this video that all these valves are not created equal. This is really important, particularly if you have one of these older diesels and you're going out to try to find a replacement valve. These are not available new any longer. Even when they were available new, they were very expensive a few years back when there were still some being made. But this is called a VCV, or the vacuum control valve. And what it does is it regulates the amount of vacuum going down to the vacuum modulator that's on the side of the transmission. And it has a rod. The rod, of course, goes up and down with throttle movement. And while that rod is moving, the vacuum coming out of this valve changes. And it's really interesting how it changes. I mean, you think, boy, somebody really went to town trying to figure out how to engineer this thing. But the thing you want to know is there's basically two types. The early type, they look fairly similar. Here's an early type, and here's a later type. And when you look at them just from a distance, you can see they look very similar. But I want to show these to you up close. And when you look at them real close, you can see, okay, the mounting points are kind of the same, all right? But look at the levers. This one on the old style straight lever, this one has this really weird curve to it. They both rotate upward, but the pin locations, the stop pin locations, are different in these two valves. So when you're talking about a 1978 to 79 300SD, you want to make sure that you look at your own VCV valve. It should have, if it has a straight lever coming off the side like this one, then that's what you want to go after. That's the part you want to go after. There was a VIN split right in there in 1980, so you have to be a little bit careful if you have one of the last W116s. Then if you have a starting in 1980 and the 123 chassis and the 240D, 300D, and so on. This is what the VCV valves, it has kind of this angular curved bracket that comes off the side. And you want to, once again, you want to look at your own engine before you go after one of these as a replacement. But you might be thinking, well, how do I know if this is working? Well, it's covered in my 126-page manual on troubleshooting and tuning diesel automatic transmissions for peak shift performance. And if there's a way to test these, you need to test these on the car. There's no good way to test these with a vacuum pump. That is not going to work. I can guarantee you. You have to be able to test this with a full running healthy vacuum system. It has to be either mounted or held up to the engine using the vacuum supply from the engine driven pump. And once you know the valve's okay, there's a whole sequence of adjusting it. You need to be able to know how to adjust this rod to the right length. There's specifications outlined in my manual here on how to adjust the rod length. And then the manual shows you how to go inside the valve and adjust it internally so that you get just the precise vacuum readings when the engine is idle, and then you go all the way down with your foot pedal and you're going to watch the vacuum change. And if it doesn't change at the proper rate to the proper amount, you're going to need to adjust it internally. And I also have a kit. I have a VCV adjusting kit that has enough hose in it. This is kind of fun. If you like this kind of stuff, you really enjoy this, because you can take the vacuum gauge, run it all the way inside the cabin of the car. You can hook it up to your VCV and you can go driving in your diesel. And this is one of the best ways to really determine whether this valve is working properly and and supplying the right amount of vacuum. It has to be just the right amount of vacuum at just the right throttle position to the modulator, or your transmission's going to jerk, or your transmission's going to go woo and slip, and they call it, you know, surging and flaring. There's other names. But I tell you, if you're having problems, you know, with your diesel automatic transmission, you've got different issues. You got the modulator. You got to make sure you have good vacuum at the vacuum pump. But when it gets right down to it, that final tuning, that final tweaking that you want to do, and that's exactly what I'm doing. That's why I'm videoing this today, is I've been adjusting this transmission. I want to get those shifts just right where I want them. And there's a number of adjustments that need to be made, and they're all covered here in this manual. It's probably this is the longest manual I've written, and it's only on adjusting these diesel automatic transmissions. So I hope you find that helpful. If you're looking for VCV valves, we do have these on our website. We get these in and we clean them, we test them, we make sure they're working properly, because all of them are not. These are getting old, and it's getting harder and harder to find good ones. We also have rod linkages available used. These aren't available new anymore, but if you have excessive wear in the rod or in the ball socket, you can inspect this, you know, visually on your own car. But if there's a lot of slop in this rod, either down here in the ball socket, or there's a lot of wear in this right angle bend at the top of the rod, this needs to be replaced, or you won't be able to get the adjustment where you want it to. So we do have these. We have these available, a few rods that are in really good condition. We select only the best ones, and then we put these up for sale on our website used. So we have good use tested VCV valves. We have the rods, we have the manual, and we have all the kits that you're going to need to adjust not only the VCV, but the modulator pressure, as well as to test and overhaul your vacuum pump if you're not getting proper vacuum. So be sure and check that out. Just follow the link below in the description of this video, and it'll take you right to these kits on my website.